Deuteronomy gives a lovely picture. He says here, like an eagle it stirs up its nest and hovers over its young and spreads its wings to catch them and carries them on his pinions. The Lord alone led him, and no foreign God was with him. What he basically is saying, giving an illustration from the eagle, there comes a time when God wants you to move on. A long time in Fraserburgh, 16 years, and ministering to a congregation, I guess about this size. I wasn't for moving. No way I'm moving. I mean, I've come home. My family are here. You know, my friends are here. I've got a nice house. I love the folks. I love the church. We're doing fine. I'm settled. I'm happy. I'm not for moving. But, you know, God wanted me to move. He's not getting through to me. So he has to get through to my wife, and that's another story.
When we came here, this building, there was no heating in it. There wasn't any carpets. There was just these forms. There were no seats, just the forms to sit in. And then we met downstairs in a little room. And then one day, one of the older ladies said, I think it's time we were upstairs and open that front door. So the next Sunday, we did as she said. We came up, and there wasn't many of us just sitting there at the front, but we opened the door, and that was the start of people coming in. I do remember when we first came to see the size of the building, and I remember there were steps up to the pulpit, and I went up and I looked right round the church and I thought, Lord, why have you brought us here? There's nobody to fill these seats. But I knew, I had a real peace in my heart that God had called us, and He would equip and He would provide.
I can remember Mum, they had not long come here, and Mum had a dream. And in the dream, she saw Dad preaching, and she was just sitting there in the congregation in her dream, and she was watching him preaching his heart out, and she just became really discouraged, and she thought, no one's listening and he's preaching so well. And she just gets out of her seat and she walks up to him. She said, come on, John, let's go. There's nobody here. It's just not worth it. And they start, in her dream, they start walking out the back door, you know, behind where the drums are. And she just felt she should turn around. When she turned around, the place was full. And she said, oh, it's full, you know. And so that, she woke up with that, and she thought, you know, God is going to be faithful.
I think when we look back, all that you could see there was potential. There was no realization of that potential. There was just a small group of people who were meeting together in a significantly empty building, and we never thought that where we're at the moment would have ever been the reality. Dreamed and hoped and prayed for that and gave towards that, but never actually thought that where we've arrived at now would have ever been the outworking of that potential that was there.
You know, when we came with the 5 kids, I can remember, you know, I said to Dad, I said, you know, when you put the advert in the Press and Journal, the weekly advert, mention that there's a creche, and if anybody turns up with kids, I'll be on creche. Because there were no other children, just our own kids. And I look now, you know, this is now 25, 26 years later, and, you know, there's about 200 kids, you know, primary school ages and creche and babies that we look after and nurture over all the services. And it's quite amazing to think it started with such a small little seed, and it's grown. And some of those little children that we looked after in creche, you know, are part of our worship team now and are growing and involved in the youth team and things like that, you know. So it's lovely to see how, you know, nurturing them and looking after them and dedicating them as babies. And now here they are coming back. It comes full circle and they're serving.
And I think for us, as we look at this next step, which is a very significant step, we're actually, I think, encouraged and take comfort from the fact of what has gone before, the reality that they came into this very large building that had potential and yet so many challenges and difficulties. Thinking about how were they ever going to reach to the city of Aberdeen, how were you ever going to fill that building? And now here we are filling it several times on a Sunday. And so as I think we look ahead, it's with the same kind of thinking inside of the potential that that building, the AECC, could actually mean not only for King's Community Church, but actually for the city. I think it's time. It's time for us to release what is in your hand.
Do not be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent, for I am with you, and no one is going to attack or harm you, because I have many people in this city.